Welcome to the Logos Center and to our home here in Fountain Hills, Arizona. We're delighted to be with you and to be able to share our perspectives on what's happening in the world on this Father's Day of 2020. And we want to talk with you especially about the problems of fear and loneliness.
During this pandemic time, yes. A lot of people that live alone are really experiencing a great deal of loneliness, and it's a difficult time for them. There's certainly some things that you can do to work with loneliness during this time, especially with this isolation. It's a wonderful time. Somebody said the other day, I bet the Puryears are bored to death during this. And I said, bored? We haven't been bored at all. We have just absolutely enjoyed the time to read and to spend time and to talk on the phone with people and email back and forth, and a lot of things we haven't had time to do before. So we have enjoyed this time, haven't we?
We have.
We
but
have.
It's, because of circumstances, it hasn't been all that much different from our life a year ago.
Because we have offices in our home, so it hasn't changed a whole lot for us. We went out the other day and we noticed that people are getting really careless about wearing masks, and then there's the whole other viewpoint that the masks are worse to wear because of messing up your oxygen levels or something like that.
We are wearing our masks.
We are.
And,
we are.
To the extent that possible,
We are.
social distancing. It's not always possible when you pass by someone in the grocery store, but you move quickly. They're saying that the time of exposure is as important as the closeness. So we're interested in and trying to follow all of the recommended guidelines.
And while we have a lot of friends that are going through really difficult emotional times, there are also a lot of people who are saying a similar thing that we are, that it's given them a time to read and catch up on things that they haven't really had before. And so we can turn this into a real growth time and a time of really expanding and elevating our consciousness. And then we have those moments, and sometimes we're very productive, and then we have our moments where I'll just sit glued to the television and binge watch and read, all day long. And then I'll think afterwards, I could have done so much else that day, but maybe just reading and relaxing was enough. That was good.
And fear. A lot of people are really, truly fearful about this, and some foolishly not perhaps concerned enough. But you remember Jerry Jampolsky wrote a book based on the Course in Miracles, Love is Casting Out Fear. And in the letters of John, he says, perfect love casts out fear. And so some people, I think especially the Course in Miracles, say there are only two emotions, love and fear. And I say in every prayer, quoting Jesus, be not afraid, it is I. And fear is really paralyzing, and what we don't fully understand is how important our emotions relate to our endocrine system and how those endocrine gland secretions really affect our health, our digestion, our ability to recuperate, our sleep. And one of the biggest problems about fear, this is very metaphysical, but fear relates to the solar plexus center, and the energies when we meditate need to rise from the base of the spine to the forehead. And when Anne was giving readings, she could see the aura in a way that's just amazing. The most clear picture of the aura of any psychic that I've worked with. And she would see blockages. She could actually see in the energy body blockages. And when the solar plexus is blocked, which will be when we are angry or when we are unforgiving or when we're fearful, then those energies that might guide us or heal us or lead us are cut off because they can't rise up to the higher centers. So the antidote to fear is one that all of us should entertain and study and work with, because these little things sneak up on you in an unexpected way, and you immediately want to intercept any fear because you want to intercept those messages that go out to disturb your health.
Right, and it's a good time to read uplifting material. I have read maybe a dozen Chicken Soup for the Soul books during this time, and they always lift my spirit. I always feel better having read them. Chicken Soup for the Grandmother's Soul, Chicken Soup for the Father's Soul, Chicken Soup for the Dog and Cat Soul. They are really spirit lifters for me. And also, Herb mentioned this before, but have a song in your heart, something that when you're feeling down or fearful, you can sing. I go to the Rock of My Salvation, go to the
Stone the builders rejected. Go to the mountain, and the mountain stands by me.
All around me is sinking sand.
On Christ the solid rock I stand. When I need a shelter, when I need a friend,
I go to the rock.
Yeah. So you can sing these to yourself aloud or quietly. I do a lot of singing to myself silently, and it has the same vibration.
It's probably, when I do silently, it's probably a blessing. You don't have to listen to my off-key type of thing. But we've been thinking an awful lot about fear, and we've been thinking also a lot about death and the afterlife. Not that we're fearful about dying. In fact, I just read a whole series of books, I mentioned them before, by James Churchward on the lost continent of Mu, and how this great civilization sank thousands of years ago. And so I have been reading an awful lot about death and the cataclysmic explosions that broke apart Atlantis and Lemuria. So it's not as if we haven't experienced before dying. We've probably all been Lemurians and Atlanteans. We've lived, we've died, we've been in cataclysmic type of experiences where we may have lost our lives, or we had to revert back to lack of awareness of all the technological advances that were made because of such a loss of all of the inventions and things during that time. But it's not a time to be fearful. It's a great time to start journaling and write down what you're feeling, what you're thinking, dreams that you have, all those kinds of things, and really look at your journaling and see what your words are saying back to you. When I reread my journals, I've been keeping a journal for, golly, I don't know, maybe since the 70s. Herb has been keeping journals since the 50s, haven't you?
I started recording dreams in 1953. I had a big, powerful dream I still wonder about, and so I've been working with my dreams since 53. And nothing of importance happens to us that is not foreshadowed in a dream, so keep track on those. But regarding fear, these times are sobering and challenging, but the more we understand what's going on, the less fearful we may be. As a matter of fact, it's really important for us to understand, as Anne just mentioned, that there were the Atlantean civilizations that rose and fell. There was Lemuria that rose and fell, and Casey says before that there were other civilizations that were as highly advanced as we are. And then you read about the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, the rise and fall of the British Empire, and sure enough, there's likely to be a book someday, not very soon perhaps, the rise and fall of the United States of America. The constellation of events that's happening, the list is too long. The ecology, making the oceans polluted with plastic, the burning of the rainforest in Brazil. There are about 40 armed conflicts, wars going on in the world now, and the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and for no reason at all. In the wealthiest country in the world, there are people that are homeless and children that are going to bed hungry, and the Navajo, some don't even have running water or electricity in their homes.
30% don't.
Yeah. And the thing about the rich getting richer, I read an article that said there are a lot of people that are so rich they have no idea what to do with their money. It just sits there. There's no investment. There's no caring. And one of the problems about addictions is there's never enough. If you, like Tony Robbins told the story of a man who felt he made $2 million a year and he felt he wasn't successful. And Tony said, well, what would it take? And he said, well, I'd have to be making $4 million a year to be successful. But the truth is, if he were making $4 million a year, he wouldn't feel successful, because there's something about greed, as with any addiction, that you never get enough because it's not fulfilling what you think it's going to do. You might say, oh, if I had $1 million, I'd really feel safe and secure. And then if you had your $1 million, you'd be fearful of the stock market or
somebody stealing it, or
or being ripped off. So it's only in our consciousness of the divine nature of ourselves and the extraordinary loving relationship we have with God, with our Father. That's the only safe place in the universe, not just this planet, but any other dimension. The safe place is attained, therefore, by prayer, meditation. And I've read, not only in the readings, but other places, that sometimes prayer and meditation for others is more helpful and more effective than some external activity trying to be helpful physically.
You know, when we were studying Tony Robbins and going through all of his classes, he said fear, F-E-A-R, is false evidence appearing real. And I try to remember that when I'm fearful. I'm not fearful a whole lot, but when I am fearful, I try to remember that there are different ways to look at things and try to change the way my attitude and the way I'm looking at things, and that usually helps. But whatever we can do during this time to lift our spirits, to feel less fearful, to be more optimistic, and this has given me a real opportunity. I was raised in the South, in Danville, Kentucky, and I grew up, we used to wear Confederate memorabilia. That was just the kind of thing then, not thinking how horrible that was in front of the blacks and all. And this whole thing where we've had this, the riots and all, I told Herb that if I had been born black, I would be there fighting on the streets, and I would be one of the meanest, and I would be so angry because of the things that were done to the black people. And so I have a lot of empathy for that. But what I realized is I am hardly doing anything to help the situation. I pray about it, but I don't really have but 2 or 3 black friends, and those I don't always see too often. And it made me really look at how little I've done to help with race relations and things of that kind. So that's been a really helpful thing for me to see how I need to make some changes in my thinking and improvement in my consciousness that way. It's been a good time for us because we've had a chance to reread like the home library series and things of that nature, and just have time to really study and look at things and try to develop a greater understanding of some of those things. So in that way, it's been a blessing during this time because we've had a chance to really go deeper within and to look at things far more clearly. Not an easy time,
No.
And especially for some people, out of work and not physically well and going through all kinds of emotional turmoil. So we need to be empathetic and compassionate with people and what they're going through. And I think, if anything, the good part about all of this is that we have recognized just how important the people are that wait on us, that take care of our needs, that clean our houses, that do all of those things. And instead of looking down at people in jobs of that kind, which is crazy, of course, we need to just really look and share with them our admiration for them keeping working and letting us survive during this time, don't you think?
The most advanced spiritual people are those who serve.
Yeah.
And we I personally have tried to make a rule for decades that I need to respect anyone doing a work that I wouldn't want to do. If I wouldn't want to do a kind of thing, but I hire someone else to do it, that's not right. I can't ask someone to do some kind of work for me that would feel that was too much for me or below me or something like that. So we need to have a tremendous respect for our brothers and sisters, and it's so hard to remember and claim the reality. We are children of the Most High. We are God beings, and the way we treat others. This is Casey and the words of Jesus. The way we treat others is the way we treat God. This is the way. If and you know, even in the Old Testament, the invitation is to be kind to the stranger, and it says, thereby many have entertained strangers unaware. So we need to, you know, this is a time in which there's such movement of people all over the world, refugees all over and seeking some place of peace and just a place where they can have a job and feed their children. And so this is one of the symptoms of maybe 20 on the world of what's happening. And I've been reading a book. I started this archetype of the apocalypse in 2004, and I've been talking with you about this for 16 years. I just finished reading it cover to cover the 5th time. He is talking about the kinds of things that the Revelation of John talks about. And as some of you know, I've been trying to study the Revelation for a number of years. And I always stress one sentence early on in the book that says, be not afraid of any of the things that you will experience. So we don't want to be fearful of these, although the imagery is frightening. But we mustn't be fearful if shops are shutting down that are offering products that serve no useful purpose at all, and so there will be a time in which there might not be all of this acquisition and acquiring of material things, but we will be richer and happier and more productive, because we will devote ourselves to things that are creative and helpful to others, instead of stocking up things that we really have no immediate need for.
I've noticed that with myself. I said the other day, I realized I really don't want to buy anything or acquire anything. I want to give away things that I have. I want to stop accumulating things, and I just really feel very strongly about that.
That'd be. It's good news. It's good news that
we're not so materialistic. And,
that we're not so eager to buy another. Even 200 years ago, Henry David Thoreau says, "Do you really need another pair of glow shoes?" You know, I guess he's talking about patent leather or something like that. But there's nothing wrong with acquiring, but it can be addictive and diverting of our funds that could be so much better used otherwise.
Right. It's just made me, as I said, I didn't realize it till all this happened. It's just made me not want to acquire, to want to get rid of a lot of things and give them to people who could really use them. And it just changes your whole feeling about material things. And you realize how materialistic you are. And you think about when you die, the day that you die, you cannot take with you your wedding ring, your watch, your dog. Well, maybe your dog.
Maybe he'll meet you on the other side.
Yeah, but you can't take any of those things with you. Like, I'm okay leaving almost everything except my wedding ring. I wouldn't want to do that. And there are certain things that, like, the children have made that you want to keep, but you're not going to take any of that with you. So this is my personal philosophy. I believe that while you're in a physical body and you're using this physical form, this temple, for your soul, I think that you need to always be looking at the fact that everything is impermanent, that you can't take it with you, that you are going to go out of this world not only naked, but you're going to not have one single thing that means something to you of a physical nature.
But the permanence, the things that are loving, the things that are helpful,
right.
those are permanent, and we build them.
The emotions and the love and
right
all.
into our souls, we build them.
We do.
So in these times, we hear the expression, the new normal. There may not be any new normal. There may be new challenges, and after that, more challenges, and after that, more challenges. And so we need to understand that there's meaning behind these changes. And this book, Archetype of the Apocalypse, says the more people who understand the meaning behind it, the more we will get through this more constructively and helpfully. So the destruction of Babylon in about the 18th chapter, 17th, 18th chapter of the Revelation is something to read and reread and understand that this is what's happening today. The merchants are going to complain, I can't sell my glow shoes anymore, or this or that. And so there's the meaning that's occurring here is that humankind is going in the wrong direction, that God in his love is supportive of us, and that the things that are not life-enhancing and life-giving are going to pass away. And as that happens, we will see problems, political, economic, ecological. We will see changes that will continue for some years now and decades, and some of the people think perhaps hundreds of years. So remember this: the greatest help that we can be to anyone, and Casey says it, more than activity can be prayer. So we want to become people of prayer, and for our prayers to be more powerful and effective, we need to be meditators and raise those energies up within us. And that's the safest place for you, because not only can we send out healing thoughts for others, but we also can receive our own inner guidance about choices to make and directions to go and how to take care of ourselves. So get your Search for God book out, read and reread again the section on meditation. Start working with those affirmations and those truths in those 24 or so chapters. Become a people of prayer. Put your religion to work, your faith to work, and do not be fearful. And in terms of loneliness, a lot of people feel that there's not a loneliness if you have a sense of the abiding presence of the Christ in your life. And Jesus said, I will not leave you comfortless. And so you can be comforted in knowing that he's got the whole world in his hands, that he's our elder brother, that he is preparing a way for us. And so let these be times of inner growth and affirmation.
And it's a time also to get in touch with how you feel about death and the afterlife. Instead of being fearful about it, think of death as a great adventure. And none of us want to die. I mean, we do everything to keep from dying. We kind of have a feeling that even if we don't voice it, that we may be the exceptions. We may not be the ones that die, that there are those that have been said to have lived and never died. And so we kind of had that feeling, well, maybe we will be that exception. And so we don't really prepare for good, gentle deaths. We don't prepare in so many ways that would make it easier for the people who come after us. And this has been a really good time for me reading the books on Lemuria and Atlantis, where great civilizations are no longer above the water. To know that these societies that were some more advanced than we are even today went under and were destroyed. And so when Sherry Pearl talked about impermanence, when I really got in touch with the idea of impermanence, it also made me look at death and know that it's not the end, that this body is going to die. I am temporarily using this temple, this shell, to house my soul, but this is not permanent. This is not going to be here. The Anne Puryear physical body is not going to be here. The Herb Puryear physical body is not going to be here.
Well, I think we associate consciousness with the physical body, and we think when you die you lose consciousness. No,
No.
the continuity of consciousness we're going to always be ourselves,
Right.
and when we get on the other side, we'll still have a consciousness. And so it's not as though we're going away or coming into a cessation of the life, but we joke about he's going to a better place. Well, most of us, when we die, will go to a better place, and so we need to anticipate that transition with not with fear, but with expectation and hope and faith and in prayer.
As a mother that's had a child die, people have said to me, well, he's in a better place. When you're a mother of a child who's died, that child is never in a better place away from you. That's not what you ever feel. That's one of the worst things. Don't ever say that to somebody, well, your child's in a better place or your husband's in a better place, because the better place we feel is right here with you.
You want to hug the body.
Right. Even though the truth is they are in a better place. And it's an adventure. I mean, instead of dreading dying, what an adventure we're going to have. If it's great here, and so many times it's fantastic here, imagine what it's going to be like.
Eye has not seen what he's prepared for us.
Right. And
Well, I'm going to, we enjoyed the visit with you. I'm going to ask Anne to lead us in a prayer. And be sure to stay tuned afterwards. Bob and Maria Messenger, in honor of Father's Day, are going to sing the Our Father, of course, the Lord's Prayer.
a different little version of it, too.
And it's going to be very special.
It is.
So honor your father and mother, and remember that the real Father is God, and let's be people of prayer.
And thank you, all of you, for the calls you've made to us and the visits and the phone calls and things like that. We've really appreciated that, and it's lifted our spirits. So if any of you just feel like you want to talk, give us a call. We would love to talk with you and visit with you. We've tried to contact as many of you as we can. We certainly haven't contacted everybody, but we've been trying. So we've got a list. We have a master list, and we're trying to go through that and get hold of everybody and let you know how much we care for you and how much we appreciate you.
All right, pray with us now.
Yeah, I'll close with this prayer. Dear God, we are thankful to be alive at this time. Help us to be aware of the needs of our friends and loved ones and those people around us, that we might be there for them in their times of needs, that we might say those words of comfort that will help them. Help us to become the best that we can be, so that we are prepared not only when it's time to make the transition from these physical forms, but that we are prepared for the next adventure of our lives. On the spirit plane, we will do amazing things, have amazing experiences, and for this we thank you, God, for we know that this physical body, this life is not the end. We thank you again for our lives, for each other, and we ask that you bless each of us in a special way to fulfill our soul purposes this lifetime. And we pray this in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen. Stay listening now for Bob and Mari, and
we're saying goodbye. We are going to say goodbye to everybody because Mari and Bob are going to do a wonderful song, a new version you're going to love. And happy say goodbye.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the